It's chapter 21 of Attack of the Clones, and this is take 2. I needed to read some, check where I check certain things here. Most of what I have in my notes concerns on Tatooine. Anakin returns and is talking with Padme and all that situation there. But it also has Obi-Wan getting back to his ship to send the transmission, which there's something there that's what I need to check on. And it's like, this is dumb. Yeah. And then it does end with the Anakin being told you can't leave, protect Padme, and Padme's like, all right, well, I'm going, so I guess you just have to follow me. Anyway, here's the thing that's dumb, is that it does describe that, like, in order to aim the transmission to be first at Coruscant, oh, wait, no, we're too far away, that won't work, fine, let's try Naboo. Oh, Anakin's not there, why isn't he there? Scan large area, he's on Tatooine, fine, aim it at Tatooine. So, in order to aim it, he has to be in the cockpit, messing with the instruments. But to actually send the transmission, to be recorded, he has to be outside, so he has to climb out of the cockpit and go. And it's like, it does describe him climbing out of the cockpit twice. Because he's like, okay, we can't reach Coruscant? Hang on. Then it's like, fine, we'll try for Naboo, gets out, it's like, all right, start sending the transmission. Then R4 is like, Anakin's not there. What? He should be. And then he gets back into the cockpit. Once he figures out he's on Tatooine, he aims at there, it's like, all right, fine. Back out, and it's like, this is dumb. This is very dumb design. Why would you have a spaceship where the only way to send such a transmission requires you to be outside of the spaceship? Anyway. Yeah, it just... I will grant this, though. It is potentially... It's bad. All right, this is not defensible. But I think that the defense is they needed him outside of the ship because if the droids had rolled up on him while he was in the ship, one of two things would have happened. One, they would have either just destroyed the ship, and with him in it, killing him. Or two, he would have been able to take off and escape. Which, either way, makes the whole rescue of him on the planet not as reasonable. At least you wouldn't have the pressure of, we need to rescue Obi-Wan. We need to investigate Geonosis. Yes, that's the thing. But rescuing Obi-Wan wouldn't be the thing, so... It also just occurred to me, his ship has that hyperspace ring, that he had to have taken that to get to Geonosis. That should still be in orbit. So, everyone at Geonosis it's like, hey, we're picking up something new. What is it? It's a hyperspace ring for a ship. There's somebody here we don't know about. This is part of the reason why, I mean, I know I'm technical. I know I'm getting pedantic here with this stuff, but it is like, you set this technology up. You have to actually use it appropriately. I mean, it's like the whole, going back to that presentation I gave and put on the presentation I wrote, gave in real life and also put on YouTube. You build a box, right? You're the one building the box. And guess what? You can't punch holes through it. The Force technically allows you to do that because it's magic, but this is technology, not the Force. You can't do that and be like, oh, suddenly it's not there. It's like, no, they should have picked that up. It's just... Okay. The first note I have is, so we're going back to the stuff with Anakin, is Owen, so Padme, after pulling 3PO out of the oil bath, which he actually made a small mistake with, lowering him too far, so he got oil in his eyes and can't see, which let her laugh. But Owen, when finding her, because like, we were looking everywhere for you, why he didn't think to check completely inside? Anyhow, he has decided that 3PO should be returned to Anakin. That is what Shmi would have wanted. Which in one way makes a lot of sense, because part of the reason she kept it and was protective of 3PO was it was from Anakin. You know, that's what it was to her, was a connection back to Anakin, her son she gave birth to, as opposed to Owen, the son who she still loves, but not hers biologically. So it could be Owen. Owen is correct, essentially is what I'm saying, is that yes, that should go back to Anakin, because just as it meant something to her because it was his, now will mean something to Anakin because it was hers. Whereas for Owen, it's like, yes, that was my mom's, but it's not the same for me. And like, she came here with that. It wasn't as connected. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So in one of the previous videos, I talked about how I do think that there is a basic kind of natural, normal, masculine desire for forgiveness that typically is associated with a woman giving that, such as their girlfriend or their wife. In this case, for Anakin, that would be Padme giving that. And it's definitely in here. Like, it's definitely written showing that she is going to be in that role of basically his confessor and the one who will forgive her. Yes, forgive him. Sorry, no, I was just checking. No, confessor is, I'm pretty sure that's the right term. But anyway. I still have an issue with how it is done at a later portion in the book that I will be reading through. But I want to read this portion, which is he has just arrived. All that time, the thing that struck Padme the most was the look upon Anakin's face, an expression unlike anything she had ever seen on the Padawan. Part rage, part grief, part guilt, and part resignation, even defeat. Okay, so it's like, he is in pain, he is suffering. She knew that Anakin would need her and soon, but she had no idea what she thought she might do for him. So it is basically that acknowledgement there of what I was describing, that forgiveness. She sees him suffering. It's like he needs to confess. He needs to be forgiven for something. Because it's like with the guilt there and resignation, it's like something is off. It's like I need to be the one to tell him it'll be okay, kind of thing, to potentially forgive him and do that. So it is, we do have that acknowledgement here, not exactly the way I was describing, but that is the sentiment here. And that she recognizes he needs her, but she doesn't know exactly how she's going to take care of that. Fixing a typo on my notes. So then we have them in the garage, and he is basically just trying to keep busy to not think about things. And this scene is in the movie, but I don't remember the scene well enough to know how closely it follows what's in the book. I do think the book is written fairly well, because you do get to be inside their heads, but it is that there should have been more there. Now, I'll get to that. But he is basically just at this point ranting, which it is a rant, yes, but it is him basically just voicing his own frustrations. He's getting it out. He's not talking to her, and even has a comment. Yeah, he wasn't talking to her, she realized, but was just playing it out verbally for himself. It's like, because he is saying things that normally he probably would never say, like how he's blaming Obi-Wan and all that. It's like, she's getting, okay, no, you're venting, so not holding any of it against him. But what snaps him out of it, because he is like oblivious to her at the moment. Anakin, what's wrong? Her volume and tone finally got his attention. I just told you, but it's still, he's like, not really there. Anakin just, no, Padme yelled back at him, no, what's really wrong? Anakin just stared at her, and she knew that she was onto something. I know it hurts, Anakin, but this is more than that. What's wrong? He just stared at her. Annie. His body seemed to shrink then and slump forward just a bit. I killed them. So now he's actually into the confession. And I do find it interesting here, and I'm certain it's intentional. Why is the one thing I'm a little unsure about, is that it's when she calls him Annie that he actually snaps out of it. And is like fully now responding to her. It's for one of two reasons I can think of. One that's a bit simpler is because that's how Shmi always called him, right? He was always Annie to her. So it could be just like reminding him of his mother, or it's because it's the more familiar term. That is how Padme first knew him, and to a degree that's who he is Annie to her. He did have the moment earlier where he was like, no, call me Anakin, because basically that's a man's name. Annie is a boy's name. I'm a man. That whole thing, but there was still because of how that basically set up a line, they tried to set a distinction here. By her using Annie, it pierces through that and back to just who you are versus who you're saying you are. It's like, yes, he's a man. She's not calling him Annie in a way that degrades that at all. Not even before, but it was just how she knew him. And it is a more familiar term, Annie, than Anakin, being a nickname. But it was also how she was familiar with him. So I think either of those explanations could do it, would sufficiently answer it. But it being Annie there is right. It is good. That is how that should be. That's what snaps him out. Okay. So now we get to page 531, which is, he's even talked about the whole, they're like animals, he said suddenly, and I slaughtered them like animals. And then we get, let me give you the paragraph ending 530, and then get to 531. Padme sat back a bit, too stunned to respond. She knew that Anakin needed her to say something or do something, but she was paralyzed. He wasn't even looking at her, he was just staring off into the distance. But then he lowered his head and began to sob, his lean, strong shoulders shaking. So it's, just setting the scene there. So this is absolutely the moment. He's confessed, now she needs to do something. So Padme pulled him in and hugged him close, never wanting to let go. She still didn't know what to say. Why do I hate them? He asked. Do you hate them or do you hate what they did to your mother? I hate them, he insisted. And they earned your anger, Anakin. He looked up at her, his eyes wet with tears, but it was more than that, he started to say, and then he shook his head and buried his face against the softness of her breast. By the way, one thing I want to add concerning that, I mean, true, they are potentially both sat down, but later on it's described that they are like standing next to each other. And at least in the movie, Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen, their heights are very different. So it's like here, if they're sitting down, then yes, him going to her chest in general. I mean, yes, to her breast, but it's just, that kind of holding himself towards her makes sense. But later on, how it's described that she kisses him on the cheek, this is when they've actually like had the funeral, and it's like Natalie Portman would either have to reach to do that, or he would need to bend down to enable that. So it does just, just when seeing this a little bit, but that definitely, it's like, how close are they supposed to be in height going to the novel, which is technically potentially more so canonical? I don't know if you want to say that, no, the movies are canonical, in which case then that height difference doesn't make sense. Anyhow. Yeah, but it was more than that. A moment later, he looked back up, his expression showing that he was determined to explain. I couldn't. He held one hand up outstretched, then clenched it into a fist. I couldn't control myself, he admitted. I don't want to hate them. I know that there is no place for hatred, but I just can't forgive them. To be angry is to be human, Padme assured him. To control your anger is to be a Jedi. Anakin was quick to reply, and he pulled away from her and stood up. So yes, they were sitting. Turning to face the open door and the desert beyond. Padme was right there beside him, draping her arms about him. Which, potentially would be like that, or about his waist or something. But I mean, just the height difference thing. Anyhow. She softly said. She kissed him gently on the cheek. I thought that was later. Okay, you're human. So but it still is the height. Anyhow, no, I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this. He looked at her directly, shaking his head. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're like everybody else, Padme said. She tried to draw closer, but Anakin held himself back from her. He couldn't hold the pose of defiance for long, though, before he broke down again in sobs. Padme was there to hold him and rock him and tell him that everything would be all right. Okay. For the external portions of this, so what their emotions, their words, I do have a little bit of an issue here, but it's all fine. It's the internal. There should be an internal portion here that's missing, and it bothers me that Padme should be like, "Holy shit! What did you do?" Like internally, she should be like, "This is bad. You just killed a lot of people. That is wrong." But I can't say that to him. Okay, I'm saying it's. She needs to support him right now. And it's like, his guilt makes it clear. He knows it's wrong as well. So it's like, she doesn't even need to say that. But it still is how this almost seems like, no, it's all okay. It's all okay. It's like, it isn't. He just murdered a whole bunch of people. Yes, everything is going to be okay, but there should be some acknowledgement from her, I feel, internally, not just, that she was so too stunned to respond, that she's shocked by this. It's like, yeah, obviously, but it still is, when he is starting to talk more and it should be like, he just murdered a bunch of people. She should be recognizing that. But also, like, justifying it then, nothing will bring them back. I need to support him getting through this so that he will never do this again, essentially. And even at the end of the chapter, because Anakin's been ordered not to go to Geonosis, but she's like, we're only a parsec away, which, as I recall, is about 4.2 light years. Which is actually really, really close in the grand scheme of things. While Coruscant is half a galaxy away, so she's like, there's no way the Jedi will get to Geonosis in time to save Obi-Wan. But yeah, if they stayed here and did nothing, Padme believed she would lose two friends. Obi-Wan to the Geonosians and Anakin to his guilt. So you could have that in here. That's like, no, he's the one that can be saved now. I need to do that. I need to support him through that. He still murdered a bunch of people. But it's like, I feel like we need that acknowledgement here from her. Because it is almost like she's not acknowledging what he did was wrong. And it's like there can be a time and place for that later. Like the whole Yoda, as I was saying with the previous chapter, should talk to him. Yoda, too, should help him with navigating through his emotions here. Like that should happen. I doubt it will, but Padme also should be doing that. And it is also, there's a part of me that to be angry is to be human. It's like, well, yeah, but people can be angry and not murder. I mean, again, it's like you're kind of playing this down, Padme. This is serious for multiple reasons, not just the whole he murdered a bunch of people, but also the him losing control, and it's like, yeah, to control your anger is to be a Jedi, and that's something that Yoda would be able to help with, because in theory, Yoda could be like, well, yeah, but that's not to say you don't have it. I mean, if anything, Yoda could even be like, and I think in theory Palpatine, because like Anakin does admit to Palpatine later, and Palpatine would potentially help him through this, even without him being Sith Lord dude, okay? Even without that. The whole, that yes, you failed. That time you failed. What about the next time? What are you going to do then? It's like, that even Padme could be doing that here. It's like, okay, but, or, well, maybe not here, but a little bit later where it's like, okay, yes, you screwed up very badly. You're not going to be charged with any crimes, which doesn't necessarily make it better, but because this is also an element of punishment allows you to reconcile with what you did, reconcile with the world as well. So there's that we're not going to be getting. But it's, and I keep, these asides cause me to lose my train of thought a little bit. The whole idea that, okay, yes, you screwed up there, you failed there. What do you do next? Like, the next time this happens, what are you going to do? And Padme can do that, not necessarily at this moment. Yoda definitely can and should if he ever has a discussion there. And that's also something that Palpatine could do. It's just the whole, yeah, but what happens the next time? Are you going to lose control then? Are you going to just always try to avoid those situations, which he kind of is? The whole losing Anakin to his guilt. He's like, no, we were told not to go, let's not go. Padme understood what was happening. Anakin was doubting himself. He felt himself a failure because of his inability to save his mother, and perhaps for the first time in his life, he was truly doubting his inner voice, his instincts. She had to find a way around that, blah, blah. And it's like an appropriate response from her, Padme, Yoda, or Palpatine when that comes, or Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan would, I don't think, be great for this. But the whole, like, yeah, you did fail, but what about the next time? Because you can either figure you'll lose control again, not good. Always try to avoid the situation, which is what he's trying to do here, just essentially not care about anything anymore. Cut it all out so that way he can't fail. Or are you just going to make sure you don't fail next time? That you still go in, you still do what you can, but you maintain that control. Um, there's that is an appropriate response, but Padme isn't delivering it, and she could, right? I mean, it's because I brought up the whole masculine, feminine stuff earlier. There's no reason she couldn't. That's not a significantly masculine. That's not a significantly enough masculine thought for her to not be able to deliver it. She absolutely could. But I just don't like that there's basically none of that here. Not even the whole, like, her thinking about doing that in the future when he has calmed down some. Yeah, but one other thing that did also occur to me, what he was doing with the Force when when killing all of the Tuskens, why doesn't he do that when he gets to Geonosis? I mean, it's like she could even make the point to him that when we get there, what are you going to do to them who are hurting Obi-Wan like they did your mother? Which can serve both as figure out how to use that to protect Obi-Wan, which, good use of that, but also trying to snap him out of you can't just turn away from everything. Are you just going to give up on Obi-Wan? Let him die. So, yeah, it's... Yeah. I do wish that we had more there. Maybe there will be more later on, but I kind of have my doubts on that. It just... For how the story's been written so far, I guess maybe there was one or two times when it seemed like, oh, this would be a good time for it, but that's actually like a chapter or two later. So it could still come, but I have my doubts. We'll just have to see. But at least for Padme's internal stuff, she should be acknowledging he just murdered a bunch of people. That is what he did. Yes, they are Tuskens. He says they're animals, they're still people. They are still sentient people, and he also made clear it was all of them. And he even said, it's only the men who fight. The women don't. So he did kill people that were never a threat to him. Because, I mean, it's one thing if he killed all the men, because the men would have been charging at him, trying to attack him. That's one thing. But there were non-combatants there as well that he killed. So, I mean, some acknowledgement from her would have been appreciated, but not getting that. And she does know that happened. All right. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else, but nothing really coming to mind. There was... None of them should have been surprised. Well, yeah, none of them should have been surprised by the Trade Federation is arming. One thing, though, so it's not even that they're going to go straight... Well, okay. So I'm guessing what we're to understand happens is the Jedi Temple goes to Geonosis except for Yoda. He goes to Kamino to pick up the clone army to then come in. Boy, is this a problem when you think about the Military Creation Act hasn't even been voted on potentially. And it's like, yeah, we're just going with I mean, I guess technically they could argue, well, they say that somebody who died around that time, we had no idea about it, but apparently they placed the order. So, I guess it's ours then? So we're just taking this and using it? I mean, it's like, you'd think most of the Senate would be like, that's not okay. I mean, we get the whole, yes, you need to go to war there, but this is a problem. You shouldn't have that. Yeah, it really was. We were just trying to respond to the situation. But what are you proposing? Do we kill them all now that we're in a war? Well, no, we don't, but, I mean, it's, yeah. Actually, hang on. One thing that to just remember that I do want to also point out. To be angry is to be human. To control your anger is to be a Jedi. No, I'm a Jedi. I know I'm better than this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is kind of also what I've been saying about Obi-Wan being rigid, and also the Jedi aren't necessarily good. They're not inherently good, as in to be a Jedi means you are good. That's also kind of the problem here, is that he is like, no, I am a Jedi. I shouldn't be doing this. It's like, yeah, but the Jedi aren't perfect. You are human. He's saying, no, I'm supposed to be perfect. It's like, that's a problem of teaching there. Like, I mean, he absolutely is going to be imperfect. All of the Jedi are. But Obi-Wan is so obsessed with tradition and so rigid in that I could believe he doesn't really know how to teach that. How to teach that, no, this is something we're always striving towards. We don't, and it's like, and even though none of us will really ever achieve it, none of us are perfect. I mean, to use more Christian terms, we're all sinners. Doesn't matter how great a life you think you're leading, guess what? You're still a sinner. Like, there's still going to be things that you're doing it wrong. I was like, even, I'm trying to think of any good examples. I think Mother Teresa at one point acknowledged it, and it's like, even saints, people that we do recognize as saints, will, like, in their lives, if you ask them, even near the end of their life, when they've been living a saintly life, by our standards, would still acknowledge, nope, we're sinners. And it's like, you even though, yes, that is true, you still don't give up trying to do your best. Trying to live without sin, even though it's like, well, no, it's still going to happen. It's like you still keep trying. You still keep trying. And part of that is also the sincerity of and a contrite heart. The sincerity of wanting forgiveness. Anakin clearly is sincere, in my opinion, from this. It's like he's clearly sincere about his wanting forgiveness and that he has done wrong here. So it makes sense that he would be forgiven. Technically, there's also supposed to be penance that we're not getting into here. Whatever, that's okay, we can set that aside. But it is still there should be an acknowledgement beyond him for how bad this was. And I think Padme should have had it, because she's also human. She should be considering it. Anyway. Can you tell I'm Catholic, aside from wearing this all the time? But it still is, as I was saying, it is part of the issue with the Jedi here, is that he is being taught, at least, and I think Obi-Wan does kind of live this life as though Jedi are perfect, and they're not, because he is too traditional. That's like, these are refined and these are good, therefore we follow them and we are good. It's like, yeah, but that's not the end of it. There is more. I mean, it's, it may sound a little weird, but Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, with Spock talking to Valeris and pointing out that logic is not the end of wisdom, it is the beginning of it. And it's like, I really think that version of Spock is great, because he has this wisdom from all these years and being half human and experiencing all this, and he is trying to pass it on to her. She doesn't understand it. But I feel like Obi-Wan is like Valeris, where he doesn't understand that Spock would basically be saying to him, your traditions are good, yes, but that's the start. You need to go beyond that as well. And it's like, that's something that Obi-Wan struggles with. Anakin needs that, but he's not getting it from Obi-Wan. So that I think kind of helps explain this stuff there. And it's also Padme is trying to really reinforce that no, you need to keep trying, but she's not acknowledging the issue. That's the criticism, that she's not acknowledging the issue internally. And so it's, yeah, little confuzzled. It can be fixed. Let me say, because I don't know what's in chapters 22, 23, and 24. It can still be fixed. They can still be a moment later on where it's like, we need to, like, the urgent thing was just getting through, calming him down, and then addressing more of that. That can come later. I have my doubts it will happen, but it still is, yeah. One thing just occurred to me. I don't think it quite works, especially because it does get replaced. Which reminds me of one dark thought that I have for Star Wars. Yeah, sure, what the hell, why not? Anakin does lose his arm later in the story, in a way that is like his penance, because he is damaged by that. But it's also the whole, yeah, but you do just get a new one. It kind of doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it is still mutilation, but it kind of doesn't matter. And there's a part, I may have said this in a previous one, you'd almost think that there could be Jedi who, yeah, kind of dark-minded, but it's like, all right, well, I don't want you to run away. I don't want you to potentially hurt me, so I'm going to cut off your arms and legs. Don't worry. I mean, we're going to arrest you and all that. You're not going away, and we'll just, give you new ones. I mean, it's dark, but it is, it's kind of like, with various stories where they just resurrect people from the dead. It's like, well, death is meaningless. It's like, well, if you can keep putting on fake limbs that are apparently perfect, then, I mean, yes, they aren't you, they are machine, but still, they are apparently perfect in replicating the functions. Then it's kind of I mean, why not? It's mutilation, that's why it's still wrong, but it is, you can see how you can justify it as twisted and wrong as it is. Yeah. Anyhow, see you next time.